the next level is ASI. Now, that is now being predicted for 2028 and 29. ASI is artificial superintelligence, where the AI is smarter than Einstein and all these people put together.
Okay.
Right, in which case, it is smarter than us. That AI is only getting stronger. It has evolved from large language models to where we are now, where it's reasoning models, where it asks you questions back. It is now going to go to that next level, and that sooner enough, it will be running probably most things in terms of our life. Books are atoms. We don't know if there's one generic person that built them, because you've just said it correctly, it's based on faith. But what's not on faith is that atoms exist, and we know they create everything. We are now manipulating those atoms. If I took you back 100 years and I went, here's a mobile phone, what would you think?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
What would you think?
I'd probably think this was God.
Right. We have been entrenched in a way of life, of work and everything else, and we're about to get into a period where we no longer need to work.
We are living through one of the fastest technological shifts in human history. Artificial intelligence is no longer futuristic. It's here. Writing, designing, diagnosing, trading, creating, learning. And the question is no longer, what is AI? The question is, what happens if we don't learn it? Or more honestly, what happens if it learns us faster than we learn it? They say you either understand AI or you get replaced by it. But here's the deeper question. What does it mean for humanity when intelligence can be replicated, but wisdom cannot? Throughout history, every major technological leap has promised progress. The printing press, electricity, the internet, and now, intelligence itself. But the Bible has always warned us about something more dangerous than technology: human pride. In Genesis, humanity once tried to build a tower to make a name for ourselves, not because they lacked bricks, but because they lacked humility. In Daniel, we're told in the last days, knowledge would increase. And here we are, drowning in information, but starving for wisdom. And in Colossians, we're reminded of something steady in the middle of innovation. All things were created through him and for him, and in him all things hold together. So the real issue isn't whether AI is powerful. It is. The real issue is this: who holds the power behind the power? Is technology neutral, or does it reflect the morality of its creators? Are we building tools or building new objects of trust? Are we enhancing humanity or slowly outsourcing it? Today's guest, Kofi Oppong, founder of Urban MBA, lives in this world. He teaches AI. He understands its implications. He sees where the future is going. But I want to ask him something deeper. Where is God in all of this? If intelligence can be engineered, if systems can predict behavior, if algorithms can influence culture, what remains uniquely human? And if God exists, does AI threaten him? Or does it simply reveal us? This isn't a fear conversation. It's not hype. It's not conspiracy. It's a reality check. Because every generation faces the same temptation: to believe that progress equals control. But history shows us something consistent. Whenever humanity believes it no longer needs God, it eventually discovers it never stopped needing him. This is Everything is Upside Down. And today, we're talking about AI, ambition, prophecy, and who really is in control. Kofi, thank you for your patience in that long intro there. Tell us, Kofi, in your knowledge of artificial intelligence, if machines learn faster than humans, what do you think will happen to human identity?
That's an interesting question. So, firstly, thank you, David, for having me on your podcast. As you know, I teach education in particular to global majority students, and this whole thing about progress, where we're going, and human identity is quite a challenging one at the moment because we're on two paths. The first path is one, we are in the fourth industrial revolution, and I am known as what they call a futurist because I'm always looking at what's about to come. But to be a futurist, you need to understand about history. And it has to go back all the way to those times in the 1800s when you mentioned earlier on about factories, etc.
Yeah.
Now at the time we had what we had called the Luddites, who burnt stuff down because they believed that technology is going to take over, and these factories were going to take away their jobs.
This was in the UK,
This
or
is in the 1800s. It's called the Luddite era, and that's
Luddite
when these Luddites burnt factories because factories were starting to have all stuff that would manufacture things.
that's the first time I've heard of
Automation,
that.
really.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a real big thing. You can check that out, Luddites, from that
Luddites,
period.
okay.
And basically, they burnt factories down, believing that their lives and their jobs were at risk
Right.
because of these new technologies that were coming. We're no different now in the fourth industrial revolution, and we've managed to get past those periods where things are different right now. And if I just park that to one side at the moment, and then maybe talk about the second part, which is our spiritual awakening, we're also in what we call a time of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius, where it also talks about humanity's development and what that looks like. So in a sense, where is humanity going was a question that you really asked me. And
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that we have been entrenched in a way of life, of work and everything else. And we're about to get into a period where we no longer need to work. So what does that mean for humanity is what I'll throw back at you. We're in a period now where we have to consider that we're going to have more time on our hands than ever before because of what's about to happen. So our shaping of what happens with humanity right now for the next 5 or 10 years is crucial for what we become as we go forward.
I mean, to live in a world where there's no work for human beings sounds definitely something like out of a sci-fi movie, and probably something that we've kind of foreseen in some of the films we've watched growing up. But what does that mean for the likes of someone like myself, who isn't in the AI industry, or should I say, in the curriculum of learning AI? Does that mean that? What does that mean for me?
Well, first and foremost, you have to consider how AI is going to be applied. And that's when you can then look at what it means for you. So at the moment, we see AI as an artificial intelligence thing that you use as your chat GPT to gain ideas or to do things, etc. What we're not talking about is AI at a level called AGI and running robots. Because the whole thing is artificial general intelligence, as you said, it's going to be smarter than us. So if a AI is running a robot and that robot can do every cleaning job, do we need cleaners? Right, that's one to consider.
Okay.
Now we keep upping the level. So AGI stands for artificial general intelligence, and that is the next dividing time for us, is when AI reaches AGI.
Is that another term for humanoids?
No, AGI is when AI can run a whole company by itself.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now, those things were predicted for 2027, 28, and maybe 2029. It is going to, sorry, 28 and 29 was the original predictions. It's going to happen end of 2026 and 2027 beginning of. So what you are seeing right now, and let's piece this together by looking at what's going on in the economy. We've just reached 5.2% in unemployment, and a lot of it's happening because companies are shifting what they are doing or who they employ based on AI.
Right.
They need less people. So if you're in the marketing department of an organization, you might have 10. They're going to reduce it by 5 and give the other 5 AI to do the other work that people don't need to do. that they can't do.
And do you think it's all cost efficient
That's
for
the
them
whole
to?
idea. That's the whole idea, because obviously then the top people who run these companies will make more profit, less people to pay. Right. So
Okay.
the second part of that, taking away the unemployment, is looking at what's happening around you, which is what people are terrible at because they're all focused on different things. So 2 weeks ago, Ireland announced that all its creatives in that country, they'd been doing a 2-year test pilot on something called the UBI, the Universal Basic Income.
Okay.
They were paying all the artists in Ireland a particular amount of money per week into their bank account without doing anything. 2 weeks ago, they announced that this is now going to be a permanent thing for all artists in Ireland. They are going to get 325 euros per week into their bank account, which effectively is about 1,600 euros or something like that per week
Per week.
into their bank account.
For doing what?
Nothing.
Okay, but there's got to be something behind this.
There is something behind it, because what's happening is we are seeing the preparations of a world where we do not need to work. That's how I see these things. For everybody else, they're just wondering, like you, who are curious. There is a job shortage predicted to between 300 and 400 million by the time we reach 2030, displacement of jobs because of AI. Now, that's because the jobs that are going to come from AI, we don't know what fully they are yet, but there will definitely be a change and a shift in jobs as we're starting to see. So let me give you an example of some of these technologies and what that means in terms of, there is no cashiers now in a lot of
Supermarkets, right? Yeah.
They're gone, right? Because it's self-checkout automation. Even with Amazon Fresh, there is nobody there at all. So what you consequently you've seen is that many of those people have become delivery drivers, because that technology has now taken shape where people will do silly things like just buy McDonald's fries through Deliveroo and get it in. So the landscape is changing. And with that, you can see where these areas are now starting to develop and change and giving us another angle to look at. And that's why they are considering the universal basic income, and it will be the prerequisite to what happens here. And you'll see it happening in Ireland probably, then in Scotland, then the UK. And you can see that by the going up in unemployment rates to 5.2. Right. So what will come out is they're going to consider this as the way forward. And the government has already been doing these tests with a company called Autonomy about a UBI in the UK. So right back to your original question,
Sorry, what is a UBI?
universal basic income, a particular amount of money put into your bank account for free that will cover the majority of your costs.
So this is once AI has, I guess, been introduced and implemented to its potential, the masses, as in us humans, will receive some type of social benefit,
Yes,
and
but
this
a lot more than
a lot more than
what we consider social. This is stuff that will allow us to live.
wow. And if you know, where is this source of information coming from, Kofi?
Well, I just said to you that the UBI, it came out, I can show you all the reports on the UBI. It was all over TV 2 weeks ago. People just aren't open to understanding what's going on here if you don't understand really the wider and the bigger picture.
Yeah, this is why this conversation is so necessary, because I believe truly that a lot of people don't understand, Kofi, and certainly people like myself who, I don't necessarily work in a technological environment, although I use technology within my line of business. So I'm not privy to understand the changes that happen within technology on a day-to-day basis. However, I do experience on my shopping trips what we just mentioned, that there are no more tillers or cashiers as such. You can kind of pay as a self-checkout and, get the hell out of there. But what troubles me, I guess, a little bit, and maybe people in a similar position to me, is that the question is, can intelligence, can it can intelligence exist without morality? I mean, are these computers going to have any type of moral code DNA'd into their system?
So a lot of what's been talked about AI much has always been the safety aspect, in terms of so many people are saying this and saying that. Your question is a valid one, because I believe at some stage we might have to consider that. It's as simple as that. The robots with AGI or artificial intelligence in them, will there be a stage in 20 or 30 years where we have to start saying, do they deserve their own life? Might be an issue that we will come across.
Right.
Right. Because on top of the AGI, artificial general intelligence, that I've mentioned to you, the next level is ASI. Now, that is now being predicted for 2028 and 29. ASI is artificial superintelligence, where the AI is smarter than Einstein and all these people put together.
Okay.
Right. In which case, it is smarter than us. Right. All of these things they keep saying are a theory, but I'm going to go back 3 years and say when ChatGPT was launched, we were talking about it. Everybody was like, no, 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 you shouldn't be using this at school and all of those type of things for why are kids doing that? Me and you grew up with the same issue when scientific calculators
Yeah.
were first launched, right? That's the thing that most people won't remember. But if you then look at that, the three people, that Sam Altman from OpenAI, Elon Musk, and one other, they went to Congress, and at that time it was to slow AI down because they feared that it could become a problem.
Okay.
Did that ever materialize? The answer is categorically hell no, because capitalism is the problem, and they've put millions, billions, and trillions of pounds have been put into that sector. It is now a race, and people want their return. So you're not going to get ethical standards controlling a sector that trillions of pounds have been invested in. And sometimes we are so naive as a normal, I would say, people that get on with our day-to-day lives, that we don't realize the implications, that AI is only getting stronger. It has evolved from large language models to where we are now, where it's reasoning models, where it asks you questions back. It is now going to go to that next level, and that sooner enough, it will be running probably most things in terms of our life.
Wow. So, I mean, hearing all of that doesn't sound like it's a neutral thing to me then, because what I mean by that is, since it's grown in its vast, uh, you know, intelligence over a very short period of time, the values that it beholds surely would have come from its creators, which in theory is us. But then for it to become greater than its creator now leads me into another realm of understanding. And the question is this: do we actually know what we've created? Or have we limited ourselves?
I'm going to be very careful of how I answer this question to you, because otherwise people will start calling me all sorts of crackpot names.
Don't care about other people, but I hear you. I do
Right.
hear
No,
you.
no, we've got to be very careful
Yeah.
on this subject matter. I heard a podcast from Jeffrey Hinton, right, who is known as the godfather of AI. He has recently been given a Nobel Prize for all his work doing with AI. I was listening to, actually, it wasn't a podcast, sorry, my apologies. It was actually, he was being interviewed by a news broadcaster, and
Right,
he was
okay.
talking about all the fears that you have and why he resigned from Google's, because he said Google were being unethical with their AI, because Google were behind and were making the AI do some really strange things. Now, consequently, I'm just going to tell you another story, that Facebook were working with chatbots about 5 or 10 years ago. And they asked the chatbots to find the quickest way of being able to do customer service for its people. 2 chatbots. Facebook then went back to the chatbots, and they couldn't understand what was going on or how they were talking. And so they said to the chatbots, apparently, what's this? What's going on? And the chatbot said to them, you said find the quickest way to solve these problems. We've created our own language.
Wow.
You can check that up. Now, Facebook has played this down.
Right.
Okay. You can play it down. But that's an example of what you're talking about.
That's quite scary.
And when Jeffrey Hinton was talking and warning us, there's another guy called Mo Gatto. If you go to Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, when AI was in the rage, all of these people have come out and said, yes, we don't know, because actually they don't know because it learns by itself. Right. Or they'll put some guardrails around it, but we don't know. So the guy said to Jeffrey, well, if you're so worried, why don't we just switch it off? It is our technology. His reply, it's not our technology. But the guy didn't push him on it, and I've not seen anything on there. So if you ask me, where did AI come from? I have no clue. I can only tell you the 3 companies that are doing it.
Okay.
And them doing that.
So whilst you don't know, somebody out there in those big corporations knows.
Yes.
But they refuse to tell the masses, or it's not that they refuse?
Let me put it this way. All the technologies that we are getting now are Star Trek level. I watched AI when I used to watch Star Trek, and Captain Kirk used to turn around to the computer and talk to it, and it used to talk back. That's AI.
Right.
It's no different.
Right.
They're in space. He will turn around and he'll say, computer, calculate this. Our AIs talk to us in the same way. You can do voice things.
And for young people listening right now, Star Trek was written how long ago? In the 70s or
in the 70s? And in the 70s. It actually came out in the 70s originally. But all of these, there's an artificial intelligence in Star Trek. Yeah. I've been watching it for years.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
they knew about these things.
These things, well, we've theorized them, and they're here. And I want to say to you, David, every single thing that me and you thought of in the 80s and 90s are now here. I keep telling people this. It's now here. If we take the internet as a technology by itself, what has changed since we got the internet, David?
What has changed?
Since the internet came, what's happened to our lives? Could we even do this?
No,
we couldn't, David.
No.
We couldn't do even this in a podcast. There was nowhere for you to upload it to. People would have to come and see you in a theatre for this chat.
Yeah.
Or somewhere.
Physical. Yeah.
We had retail stores. People are all buying online now, right? I have a drop shipping business. I can ship stuff from China to somebody's house within a week. These things have been the exponential increase through new technologies. Now, let's just consider that the internet has been the biggest technology we've ever known. Even when you include things like it has the dark web, everything in our lives have changed from that. But what if I told you there's 9 of them as big as the internet, which are about to hit us?
9 what?
9 transformative technologies. You've just mentioned AI. The biggest one is going to be quantum.
Oh, gosh.
When I posed a question to you right at the beginning, when I said, do you understand we're in the 4th industrial revolution? The answer is 99% of people do not understand it and do not get that all these technologies are Star Trek-like, are coming in. So I just showed you an article from the BBC from 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Right, yes.
What did it have on that article, David?
Yes.
It talked about...
I feel like I'm in an exam question right now.
Yeah.
But no, if you can elaborate a bit and tell the listeners...
It talked about multiverses.
Multiverses.
Right.
And I was asking you, if you can explain what a multiverse actually is.
Parallel universes, that there's another me and you. We have seen this in every single Marvel movie where Spider-Man is looking at other multiverses where there's 9 versions of him in different areas. There's supposed to be 6, but apparently.
Yeah.
Right? They are now saying, and you read that article, that this is now maybe not a theory anymore. So you've got to consider that all these things are coming along for people, and they have no understanding that it is coming. And that's where the fear lies. So if we go back to the question that you're sort of asking me in terms of people understanding this 4th industrial revolution and everything, including our way of work and what happened, gives us the opportunity to transform humans from slave-like working to us being able to properly think about what we are as a race, where we're going to, and how we can. If I take all work away from you, David, and we're talking about spiritual and consciousness, and back to some of the things that, and you have much more time to do that. Now, where I'm coming from is this: women are having children later. Most of them having one child now instead of two or three. Families are being eroded. 90% of black men in prison come from single mother homes. All of these are down to the construct of what work and all these things has made us do. That is why so many countries across the globe are now not producing enough to survive for the future. If I take all that away and say, David, we can now bring up families where there's not that pressure, we can really cultivate people, really bring communities back together. That is really the goal, if we allow it to do that.
But from everything I've heard so far, Kofi, not to interject, please just remember where you are to continue. But it sounds like humans are becoming less and less needed on the basis of where technology is going. So does that not contradict what you're saying in relations to the populations becoming less and less because there's less procreation going on, there's less marriages within households, and eventually the human will become almost obsolete?
Who told you you had to be a cleaner? Who told you you had to work?
Well,
we only know this from the construct of society as it stands.
Because without working, we wasn't able to earn, and without earning, we wasn't able to eat, and without eating, we wouldn't be able to live.
But at some stage, we had no money in society. Right at the beginning, there was no money in society. It was an exchange of values, right?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. So what has happened is that capitalism has taken over, that we all need the money and we have to do things to earn the money. What if we're in a world now where you don't need that?
Well, again, similar to the creation of AI, what if money was created for this same level of control?
No, I believe that money needs to stop. Capitalism needs to stop. I'm not denying that at all. Because what it does is it keeps the world, the 1% of the world controlling everybody because of capitalism and big corporates. So Google will have the internet. They're making billions and trillions of pounds. All money in the end, David, goes back to probably about 10 corporations.
Yeah, yeah.
I spend money, Chris, you, all goes back to these same corporations all the time.
And these corporations run by the same families,
the same families,
same
and all
wealthy
these
people.
types of thinking. Everybody knows that 90% of the wealth is controlled by, 5% of the globe.
The globe, yeah.
So I'm not denying that that stuff needs to stop. But the only way it can stop is for us to, we're always working, we're always doing these things. We can't stop and think.
Okay.
Right? We can't stop and think to say, okay, why is it that there's 90% of black men in prison are from single mother? So those go back to a lot of the stuff that you talk about spirituality and all of that. If you don't have both parents or two people in terms of that way, and what's happening with a lot of males is that they're being taken over by male figures outside. They love their mums to death.
Yeah.
But you still have to go and do the thing to bring you money.
Yeah.
Or to do whatever to support. And so they're going out there and they're being coerced in some cases or dragged into these situations because they need to earn money. Now, what if earning money is no longer an issue? What then, David?
Well, then the question would beg to differ now. How does one survive? What is
I've just given you the UBI, right? Which is survival. I've then told you that many robots and stuff are going to be doing many of the tasks that we don't like doing, right?
Okay.
And two things to caveat that for you. One, my parents said they would never have a microwave at home.
Once upon a time,
Once upon
they
a
said
time.
that.
We know that microwaves change the properties of food, so people aren't always. But when the Joneses have the microwave and could see how quick it can heat food and everything else, we then have a microwave.
Yeah, convenience of
The
time.
convenience of time and all of these things. So a lot of these technologies are based around convenience of time. So all of a sudden, if Elon Musk does introduce robots, as why he's been paid £1 trillion to do, and these robots can do every household chore, what does that free you up to do, David?
I think it just makes me more lazy than I already am.
Well, why? Because we've only yeah. So
You
the whole
know?
thing is we only know one concept. And the second part of caveat in that is I have African first generation Ghanaian parents. And anybody knows that our community, African or Caribbean, they watch the news all the time.
All the time.
My dad wakes up, first thing he does is watch the breakfast news. He'll then watch the news in the afternoon. He'll watch the news 5:45. It used to be at the time ITN 5:45 news.
Oh wow,
Then
he didn't miss.
he didn't miss any, and then he'd watch the BBC 9 o'clock news, and then 10 o'clock if that came on as well, because that's how Africans and generally keep track of the world. So I said to my dad at one time, because I don't no longer watch the news, David, what if I switch the news from being 90% negative to having all positive and maybe only have 5%? Because what you can't really see on the news is this war's happened, Trump, this. And then at the end, they will go, oh, guess what? Somebody's cat got rescued from the top of the tree. All right, in terms of the way that it's configured.
Yeah.
If I switched that the other way around and I said that to my dad, and he just gave me the most bizarre look and he said, that's not news. So we're conditioned to accept negativity as the forefront runner of all news.
Yeah.
Who told us that? I mean, I'm asking you, who told us that?
Well, I can't actually tell you who told us that, but from a logical point of view, and because of my faith, because we live in a broken world, which is, biblically speaking, contaminated with sin, I think one would say that we're inclined to hear bad things a lot more than good, because predominantly speaking, bad things happen a lot more. That doesn't exclude.
Are you sure of that?
I'm not saying that.
That's very interesting what you're saying there. So are we saying that 90% of the world is bad?
Probably. I mean, look, and I'm not a negative person. Anyone that knows me knows that I speak, you know, I'm more of a glass half full than a glass half empty type of person. But yeah, I mean, Kov, look around. How much times do we, like I said, based on what we get told on the news or the radio, 9 out of 10 things are negative. That doesn't exclude the positive things that are happening. I hear what you're saying. That is down to design, how they mislead people with that information.
My question to you, David, was, do you believe there's 90% of the world is negative?
Do I believe that 90%? No, I don't. That's
No,
that's the
that's
answer.
not. If it was, we would have, most people would be dead, David. It's not. It's what's portrayed.
What if I was to tell you that most people are dead, but they're walking around as the living dead? And what I mean by this is this. I'm speaking very layman's or hypothetical here, but just as we've been given a lot of apocalyptic programs, zombies, they always portray something on the lines of, the dead are awake and those who are alive are being chased after them. But what that could have foretold us, similar to Star Trek and those sci-fi movies, in an upside down way, knowledge without God's wisdom is almost zombie-like. So a person who is basically living like me and you, but they don't have God in them, is considered to be a zombie, versus somebody who has the light of God in them is the opposite. Would you say that that analogy was as far-fetched as the one that you projected about UBI?
No, what I'm going to say to you on that one is I am not religious. So am I a zombie? I am not religious, but I do understand
Mm.
neuroscience, and I do understand that subliminal messages thrown to people make them do things that they don't even realize they're doing. There's a whole bigger thing. The CIA did whole things on this whole area.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
have an unconscious part of our brain that we've only started discovering through these decades of what it can do.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
There are things that, as a football fan, I will see where they'll put somebody like Romelu Lukaku and they'll call him Saka. Right. It's like these little messages that come out in the newspapers, and many. I see all the complaints on there. What are they saying? We all look the same.
Yeah,
It's deliberate, in my opinion.
yeah.
And these are stuff that's hitting us subconsciously because we're talking about it.
Mm.
We're talking about it. We're annoyed. We're talking about it. Why are they doing that? So there's a lot going on there in terms of.
See, we're talking about it, but then we're not doing anything about it. Last night, I believe the BAFTAs was on,
Yeah.
and I think I woke up to some type of
It's just the autistic one thing.
no, this wasn't. No, this was to do with the N word apparently
Okay.
being mentioned.
I hate that word, by the way. I hate that word
Really,
with a passion.
right? Used by anyone or
It should never, ever
people
be
outside
used
of-
by our community, ever. It was how they described us
Yeah.
in a negative way that we now believe we have agency because we can call each other nigger. What a load of shit. Honestly.
And this the thing, and rap music is probably what made that acceptable.
To your point as well, I had to stop listening to some rap music for that particular reason, about the neuroscience. And one of my favorite tracks was Mobb Deep, Shook Ones.
Yeah,
Right.
great track.
What a great track. But you know, David, every time I used to listen to that in the morning, when I got out of my house, I felt that I could challenge the world.
Right.
These things, you have to be very careful of what they do to you,
Yeah.
how they.
Because they can also systemize your
They're
mind too.
systemizing.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear all of these things. As I've grown older, I've realized the power that these things have
Yeah,
on our unconscious. So
Yeah.
I'm a huge hip hop historian,
yeah,
but some things I will not listen to anymore because I know what it does to my brainwave pattern.
100%.
Right?
I mean, our eyes are a gateway, and so are ears too. So we do need to be.
Actually, we're going to
on
work
guard.
out that vibrations are the biggest thing, right? You know, if we take this back to AI, they've said they're going to bring in 5 or 10 years of AI, we're going to make 100 years of health acceleration.
100 years.
100 years. That was said by the guy who runs Anthropic, which is Claude. They came from OpenAI. All of them are predicting this. So you know, all of these things that we're talking about, and we're talking about the future changing and stuff, we're also going to live longer. Why do you think the pension age group keeps getting increased?
Yeah.
After 2030, they reckon we'll have nanos running through our body, repairing our health before we even know it's become a problem. Right. So when we're talking about all of these things, and bringing it back to your original question, many of these things have been seeded into us that we think is normal life. And where you're struggling with is the challenge of, if we took money away, how could we become, you know what, Dave, if I took money away, right, and the whole problem away, and you say, well, I'll become even lazier. But then you would go with your family to do spiritual stuff where you harmonize, you do all of these things. You have time to be able to do them. Really show your son that you've got what life really means. Where change education at the level where kids get to try everything. So then they go into what they love. These are all possibilities that, if we get it right,
Yep.
can make our lives change so wildly and for the better.
Yeah.
But because people have got no understanding of anything different to what we've been used to, it is hard for them to comprehend.
No, I totally agree with you there. But somebody along the lines, Kofi, is obviously creating this narrative, just as the other social programmings that we just discussed, you know, around the microwave and the, you know, money, and a whole heap of other stuff that we've, who told us this is what we need to do in order to get that. Going back onto what I was mentioning, surrounding the BAFTAs and the BBC in particular, apparently there was an edit of some kind that later on enabled the viewers, such as myself and this person that I got the info from, that it wasn't obviously recorded live. But what they didn't do is they didn't cut out the N word. So what reason why I'm referencing this is because most things are socially engineered.
Yeah.
To be able to manipulate, coerce, influence, and change the thinking of a person's mentality. And I don't know, I can't really use any scientific examples right now, but as you know, with chimps, mice, they're the animals that they like to experiment on a lot, and in a likeliness to humans. And if you put them in a certain room or without windows or without whatever, there's a particular behavior that comes off of it. And I feel like we too are a social experiment.
Yes.
And it's very hard, especially in the world of technology where everything is vastly changing on a daily basis. It's very hard not to get caught up or deceived. That's my take on it. But what I want to add as well, and I would like you to speak a bit on this on a positive note now, is not everything to do with AI is necessarily scary or negative. You've mentioned software or programs such as ChatGPT, which I've used on many occasions, and it's helped me do wonders. And I'm sure many people will agree with that as well. You're also implementing it towards the youth, young people, within the charity that you run. So there are some good stuff that can obviously come from artificial intelligence. I'm not a stickler 100% against it all. Just in terms of where does it leave us as humans was my main concern. But before we get to that point again, I'd like you, Kofi, to give us a bit more about how you got into it, because originally your background was managing a massive night town, right? Which I can't not have you on here and
I
not
wasn't
mention
going to bring
that.
that up at all, but
Yeah, I can't not have you on here and not
okay.
mention that, man. Night town, man. That was my favourite shop at one point.
yeah, so you probably would have run into me.
I probably would have, man.
Sometimes
But yeah, if you could tell us a little bit about that, and then how you got into AI, and then what you're currently doing now with the street entrepreneurs.
Okay. So a couple of things, David. As I mentioned to you at the beginning, to be a futurist, you need to be a historian, right?
Okay.
So we got to go back. You're learning. Firstly, when me and you were growing up, how would we learn? Books. It's been written by somebody.
Yeah.
Do you trust that somebody or whatever? But it's been written by somebody. So somebody's given you that knowledge in a book. We then roll on 100 years down the line, 1999, we then get the internet. Same thing. Books just transferred to the internet. We now get our knowledge from there. Everybody now uses it, and it's part of normality. We're now at the stage of AI, where it's just given us more knowledge, because it can access every single part of the net and look back historically and forward. It is just a bigger book. And the reality is that people don't think of things in that way. In terms of where even what I do here came from, I read 3 or 4 books when I was younger. Think and Grow Rich, which you might have read, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all of these books that gave me the understanding of what the history and the world was. And I've read lots of other books to then give me that information. I got into the whole technology thing because when I was growing up, the biggest thing that was out there was sneakers that made you look cool and everything else. But actually, what people don't remember who are in the sneaker game now was the whole thing about sneakers was around technology. It was all about, did you have the latest Reebok pump? Did you have the latest Nike Air? Did you have what they see sneakers as now is nothing like what it was in our day. It was like if a Hirachi came out shoe, it's got this really cool
Yeah,
look.
yeah.
Air Jordan, look, the bubble.
Yeah.
Right? It was all around technology. And that's how I got into it. I didn't then I realized later on that this wasn't just about sneaker technology. I just like technology in general.
Okay.
And my parents used to deal with me like that when I was younger, but they used to hand me circuit boards and all sorts of crazy things, and I didn't realize what I was like.
Oh, so you've always been this way?
I've always been into
inclined,
technology.
okay,
What I
okay.
didn't realize was it was much wider because I understood the whole concept. I grew up with a Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Right,
Okay.
right. Commodore 64. We've got
We're
Atari
showing our
ST,
age.
right, and all of those types of things. But I've grown up now through 3 or 4 different types of technology growth, and every single one has got to the stage where we started with a Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Now me and you have a laptop in front of us that connects directly to the internet,
Or even a tablet.
a tablet, whatever it may be.
Yeah, yeah.
We started off with mobile phones, where the first mobile, before then, people used to put posters in phone booths. That's how we used to find out where our raves were.
Really?
Right? There was a whole thing
Remember I'm
that
a
they
little
used to
bit
do that. Yeah,
younger
you're a
in
bit
that
old,
way,
younger.
yeah.
Right? But where we used to go to thing is people would do things like that, and somehow we'd still end up at the same
At
party.
the same party, right?
Right. So all of these things are all things that have sort of come along that we've moved into. And as I grew through my retail career, it became more technology advanced. When the technology was sucked out of sneakers is when you saw the collapse of all the retail stores, sports retail stores. So we had Olympus, Cobra,
Oh, wow.
Sports Direct.
Wow, yeah.
All of these things. You remember the
Bringing back
Champion
memories,
Sports?
man.
Champion Sports.
Champion Sports.
Where have they all gone, David?
What? Yeah, but tell me. What happened?
The sneaker industry was not longer driven by technology, in which case all of those, there's going to be a shrinkage and then all the stores merge.
Right. This is how...
This is how it's happened, right? And we've seen the same type of thing with the internet, with people like HMV. All the record stores are gone. Where are they? You had Virgin, Tower Records, HMV. There was how many?
That's right.
As the evolution of these technologies happen, it kills different industries and makes new ones rise.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just had a natural evolution that it wasn't it was sneakers. And then I realized we're in the 4th industrial revolution. These bigger technologies like AI, quantum, and everything's coming. That's where the future of the world is. And even Nike as an organization have to take that into account. And if you look at their product they're about to put out, it is all about sneakers that connect you to your neurodiversity, powered up. All of these, they have to move as well. Otherwise, if they don't, they will be gone like Fila and all the other companies that me and you grew up with, which are billion-dollar companies at the time.
Yeah. Well, I feel like today's trainer market is similar to the car market, where once upon a time you had the elites. I mean, there's still the elites, the BMWs, the Mercedes, the Audis, etc. But now you can look at cars a lot less under the grade, probably with the same technology that goes into it as a Mercedes now. Trainers are very similar. I mean, once upon a time, if you asked me 20 years ago, maybe even less, would I wear New Balance as a thing? I'd probably say to you, no. Now, in my wardrobe or under my bed, I've probably got more New Balances than any other brand. So,
But the interesting point to that is when I was growing up, New Balance were always great running shoes.
were
So
they?
there was a particular shoe called the 577. I'm showing that my sneaker knowledge.
That might be the one I've got. The
Everybody,
577.
yeah, because it's the one that was the major shoe at that time that's
Right.
been redone and helped New Balance come. And so as the bigger thing at the top goes on, you get more smaller companies that do better at the bottom, but it's nowhere near the same as it was around that time because we don't have the same purpose for it.
So does this not say? And I still want to get back onto your early beginnings in AI, and then of course what's led you now to create this wonderful opportunity for young guys and girls to start their own businesses within the sector. But does this not sound to me that AI is just revealing how dependent we are becoming on systems as opposed to wisdom?
I would say to you no, because of the same thing I've already said to you. Wisdom came from books, and you would perceive wisdom as books that you've read. There's no difference for me. The way I look at all of this is my wisdom can increase using AI.
Okay.
Right. So that's the way that I'm thinking about it is very different to somebody else. Now, at the moment, we get the most pushback from Gen Z. Gen Z are the most scared of AI out of all these communities because they believe it's coming to take their job. Right.
Because Gen Z people, like myself, am I Gen Z? I think. Or no,
Yeah. When were you born?
79.
No, you're still Gen X.
I'm Gen X.
You're my generation.
So the
Gen
Gen Zs are after me.
after you.
Right. I thought that they were embracing it.
No, it's the Gen Alpha, the one below, who are embracing it. Gen Z are actually running away quite a lot because they've been told and they've seen all the predictions, and we get the most challenges with either that or women in particular.
But Kofi, me and you grew up watching Arnie, right? When we saw Terminator for the first time, besides the mind-blowingness of this movie and how real it could be, as surreal as it was, what did you think would happen when we got to this part of civilization?
Anybody that knows me and speaks to me will talk about me talking about the fourth industrial revolution for about 15 years, 15, 20 years since we've been in it, right? I got massive revelations around those times of Star Trek, Arnie, and all of these things. I could tell that something more is going on here. I don't know what it was, what feeling I had. Right. So I'm now going to come back to this period, and I'm saying to you, Marvel movies.
Right.
Quantum and the Ant-Man.
Yeah. I'm trying to...
all these quantum stuff has been getting bombarded into your head for the last 10 years through Marvel movies, multiverses through Marvel movies. I've just shown you that. Why? Is it a coincidence that we're about to hit quantum coming out? And China launched its first quantum computer last year called the high-end one. And it's had like £60 million worth of sales in Pakistan. And then Donald Trump came up with something called the Genesis Project. The Genesis Project has been signed as the most important document in the US focused on AI and quantum technologies. And Donald Trump is using words in this executive order of dominate. And this is more important than the Manhattan Project. Now, you know what the Manhattan Project was?
Yeah, I think you briefly mentioned that to me before.
Which was the movie Oppenheimer, which is developing the nuclear bomb. They believe now, right now, where we are, that quantum and AI is so important that he's had to write an executive order and called it Project Genesis, and they've given away billions of pounds for this whole thing to be developed. These movies, and to your point of Arnie, seem to have been training us to prepare for what you could look at it in that way and say, well, because even Quantum Leap was a program that I used to watch way back in the 90s. It came back out again 5 years ago, randomly.
Oh. I wonder why.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder why.
Randomly. Yeah. It was a new series with new people trying to get across to new things and stuff like that. Still the same concept.
Right.
But Quantum Leap, because he's jumping from different verses. And I've just shown you that Google Sycamore chip computed in 6 minutes what supercomputers would take 10 septillion, which was what Google described as to the end of the universe. Now, if Google has that type of information, how much more do they know than us? And so I sometimes have to go round to come back to your answer. But when we're considering these things, I believe that most of us have heard the concepts that are about to come through movies. Yet we don't really understand that they're coming and that everything in the movies are potentially true. So that's how wild it is.
Absolutely. No, Kofi, you're right. No, you're absolutely right.
Seriously.
It literally is wild. So are we building tools or are we are we building something that is shaping our beliefs?
David, if I blew a dog whistle here, would you be able to hear it?
No.
No, but you know it exists because a dog would howl. So it's just our hearing can't hear that. Yes.
Okay.
Right. I then tell you that quantum and things like AI. So this is how it could. Quantum is all about all the atoms around us here. There's millions. Everything that we know, from phone to wires to dust, is all made out of atoms.
Mm.
Now, if you can then manipulate that, what is it that you can't do?
Well,
Right. I just for me to get that concept ahead to you, that where we are going is so radical that it is wilder than fiction. Yet nobody who's of nobody understands it. So why am I doing this education center? Because there are 400 million jobs predicted to be lost or changed because of these new technologies.
okay.
All those things that I've just spoken to you about means in 10 years' time, the reality is that those cleaning jobs I mentioned to you earlier will all be robots. It will all be automated. Every tube line, every train line is all automated. No staff is required. We've already seen it with the DLR. You know it exists. The reason it doesn't exist at the moment is because if it did, it would cause so much eruptions because we're not ready for it. But literally, we could automate every single transportation that we have right now.
So what would happen to my, hypothetically speaking, my mum who's juggling a day shift job as well as a night shift job, because she wants to make ends meet. She needs to provide for three of us, three brothers. She sends money back home every now and again to my grandmother, barrels, pots, pans, you name it. A robot all of a sudden has threatened my mum's job. She no longer works at the bank in the night time now to do the cleaning. What would you tell my mum? Or what happens to people like
That's why you need the UBI. We've already discussed it. It's coming. And that's why it's coming. Right? At the moment, every single thing on the World Economic Forum.
Is this the chip though?
We'll come back to everything on the World Economic Forum says, or okay, let's take it to Charles Schwab, the guy.
Who's Charles Schwab?
Charles Schwab, you need to look up because he was one of those guys that runs the World Economic Forum. But I bring his name up because he wrote a book called The Great Global Reset
Right.
around the pandemic. In that, they are saying there is no way we can ever go back to where we're going to and what the world's going to be going to. And I bring this up because, to your point, there has now been a prediction that there's going to be only rich or poor going forward. There will be no middle class.
There'll be no middle class.
No middle class, just rich or poor. So you have to decide from now what side you want to sit on. That's why all these things are coming. Now, because we cannot understand the concept of, even though we've seen it on TV, that robots could be running everything. You're like, what? And that's what I'm saying to you. Our spiritual consciousness, when I talked about the age of Aquarius, means we have to spiritually get to say, this is the chance we can reset and we can provide great communities and all of those types of things and change things. But we need all the communities being involved to be able to do that, not just left at the 1%, which is why I've created, and to give you an answer and all of this, that they need to know. They need to know what jobs are coming so we can reskill and upskill them. Your mum needs to know what jobs are coming so we can reskill and upskill her, right? All of these things need to be done and done fast, because the technologies are evolving that fast because they've got trillions of pounds in them. So if we're now going back to the beginning of this podcast, the thing is, we understand now that millions of pounds and trillions of pounds being pumped into this area. We also understand that's the fourth industrial revolution. Everything that's been predicted is a world of just rich and poor. So we now need to say, how do we reskill and upskill these communities and then get their consciousness right, that we start building communities again, because all communities have been eroded because of what's happening with the way that they're pushing the world. And so we're now going to a world where it's a completely different concept and people can't get it. but we should be happy that we're not going to work. But we're so scared, well, what happens to us? That people are like, no, but what? No, you can do better things. You can think about the things you really wanted to do.
I hear that.
It's just so wild that nobody's going to understand
Well,
what
Kofi,
that
remember
means.
that, you know, that the old adage, as they call it, if it sounds like it's too good to be true, then it usually is, right? Is this not one of those, this sounds too good to be true? In the way that you're kind of hoping that we should all receive it. This is good for us.
It's
don't
how
have to
you are
work.
taught, David. We've already established that it's how you are taught. So we've been taught to accept negative news. We've had all this conversation. It's how you are taught. So right now, you've been taught in such a way that we can't see any different. And that's why I posed a question to you earlier on, and I mentioned about my dad. Who has told us that the news needs to be negative? So then we bring it back, right? We know that the ones we need to be involved in these technologies. That's for certain. If we're not, then a technology like sickle cell being cured by one of the technologies that I talked about, which is CRISPR-Cas9, is solving sickle cell, which is primarily a brown disease. We need people in there who are brown to help do this. And we're not. We're so far away that we can't influence these areas in terms of what's happening. Right? So it's not a question of, is it too good to be true? What the question is that it's going to happen whether you like it or not. So
That sounds like something I would say, but
no, but I mean, like I said to you, everybody knows what microwaves do. We've still got one. We still use it. There's debates even that our mobile phones give so much radiation that's why men's prostate cancer has gone up. I had an actual doctor say that to me.
yeah, I've heard the
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Now, somebody's, he's a whack job. He's not, how can he prove that? All of a sudden, men's prostate cancer has gone up, though.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, a lot of the times, it's because we've got our phones in our back
our
pocket
pockets or somewhere.
causing all of these things. But all of a sudden now we're saying, well, actually, all diseases and stuff are going to be eradicated over the next 20 years. We're going to live longer. You're going to have a UBI. Yes, our lives are going to change. What if we're not telling people or getting people to understand all of this? It becomes a problem that when it hits us, it's going to hit us in the wrong way. Because at the moment, it's fear. It's fear. Okay. Whereas I am looking at it as the glass is half full. If we all push right now, maybe can we influence what's going to happen? But make no doubt, these robots are coming. There's McDonald's in Texas that have got no stuff. There are
Currently,
you can check that out, right?
Oh, okay.
In China, they're putting neurons, nodes on people's heads that are bypassing the spine to send messages to the legs. So people who are paraplegics are now walking.
I've heard of that one. I saw
All
it,
of these things are happening. There's some crazy stuff happening across the globe. We're in a massive period of change.
You're very passionate about this, Kofi, and I love it. I love the enthusiasm and your passion. Why are you so passionate about this?
Change only happens in industrial revolutions, and we can't right the world unless we have these things. So the first entrepreneurial rock stars, which are the JP Morgans in the world, the Standard Oils and all that, all came from that period of the first industrial revolution, and they've never moved since. Because what they do is they spend a lot of time investing in new technologies whenever they come along, so they're always there, right?
Okay.
We have no knowledge of this stuff. Right? Let me give you an example, right? In layman's terms, Nas, hip hop rapper, maybe top 3, right?
Yeah.
From my perspective,
Yeah, I'll go there.
Top 5, right?
100% top
Right,
5.
top 5, right? My favorite is Biggie.
That's me
Right,
too.
right? In terms of that, and then we've got other people. So I bring Nas up, and I bring up Chameleon as well. Nas set up Queensbridge Ventures in America,
Right.
with his money. Queensbridge Ventures invested in lift, doorbell, and
Right.
all of this. They invested in all the tech firms. Nas made 10 million when Ring got sold to Amazon
Oh
for
wow.
that time.
You know, I never knew this.
Check it all out.
Yeah, I never knew
So
this.
the sensible people invest in new tech because they know that that's where the money is going to come from. And the bad rappers have never invested in anything full stop in order to do that. If you look even at, and it generally is that period where we need to understand about technology and what's going on because that's where the money is coming from. So in that same way, if we all understood what was happening, unless you remove capitalism, you need to understand this. Right? But capitalism is there. So how are we going to get involved in it?
Yeah.
Right. Most of our communities, even David, we've got parents from 50s who bought houses and stuff that have lost them or haven't left them in positions where people can benefit from them. That's a lack of knowledge.
Definitely.
That never happens with other communities
Or cultures, yeah.
or cultures.
Yeah.
Right. We need to do better. Right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why I'm passionate about this, because unless we know about these things, there is no way that we can improve or get better.
Mm.
And the story sent is always at top level only and hidden in that area. But you can invest and do all of these things now easily that you couldn't do before. And so my passion is, if we don't get our communities understanding this, then this is what's going to happen to finish it off. 30 years ago, I watched Rodney King getting smashed up in America. NWA, being a hip hop fan, talked about this with their song. I'll just say,
Yeah, the
police.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
them lot.
It was like a movement for us. I'm 30 years down the line, David, and I saw the same thing again with George Floyd. How much have we really improved? If our community doesn't get to grips with understanding this area, nobody's doing it for us. And if you really believe that America or the governments in the UK and all of that are going to help, let's just stick with the black community, you are sadly wrong. Unless we get to grips with all of this, understand these technologies and actually being involved, we cannot change anything.
But this,
Because it's 30 years apart, David.
yeah,
Same things happen.
same things happen, which is what I was saying to you, that nothing really is new, right?
No.
We just kind of improve on ways of doing things.
No, we're not improving on the power structures, David. It's not the areas that we need to improve in. We are not. It's not a question of just the power areas. Right now, the industrial change, we need to be in it. We're not. That's why the same thing keeps happening to us. We have no agency in say of the distribution of wealth, the distribution of finance. All of these things we have no agency on. Right. But
Is that because we're the biggest consumers?
we are the biggest consumers, but we're the biggest consumers with that same problem of what I spoke to you about earlier on, that subliminally we want things because they push them out to us. Like, you will never get them. So we get trapped up in wanting all of that instead of thinking of the wider implications of just wanting small things. I no longer like seeing hip hop rappers if they've got chains around their neck. That for me is just
It's a put off now, isn't it?
It's been a put off for a long time. But now that I know the game and what's going on in,
Because that was a symbol of slavery, wasn't it? In a way,
it's just
having the chains around your neck and how much,
so all of those chains probably worth a certain amount of money, and if they'd invested it like Nas, what would that be worth? Now?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
how the way my brain thinks is always like that now. So I'm just like, oh, we just show the same rubbish image all the time, the same tracks, the same swearing, the same thing.
But all of that to me is also part of the social engineering, because there's a group that will be watching those particular rappers, and on the back of those being their ambassadors, hypothetically speaking, the masses will follow.
But what about the rappers themselves? Why are they doing it, David?
Because they've been given a package deal behind closed doors.
But they're doing it for money.
100%.
It's always money. And so my
Always.
point is that if we can remove this, would people do the same things if you can remove this? right? But as well, we're not smart enough. So that's why I gave you some of the examples of what I've given you with somebody like Nas. We're in a period where a lot of these changes are going to be rapid and they're evolving rapidly. But we don't have an agency or voice within them at the moment. And that's why we need this information out there and why I created what
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
It's not just every time any colonial country takes over another one, the first thing they change is the education system. Why? That's what I'd say to you.
Because they want to teach. They want to get their teachings out there, so to speak.
It's the number one thing, in my opinion, right? And you can say, oh, well, is that really true? Well, most India has the British system. Africa has the British system. Why?
See, Kof, everything that you've mentioned, I'm concurring with you because I live in the same world that you do. Well, part of it. I'm only joking. But we've grown up pretty much in the same kind of era.
Yeah.
We've seen similar things in our experiences. Probably had similar stories to some degree. But there's something in your outlook that differs from mine, which purely comes down to this. Where do you see God in all of this? Because you mentioned, while you ponder on that, you mentioned that people basically miss out for lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Or they lose out, they miss out, Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Obviously, God was talking to regarding the Exodus at the time from Egypt. And they were wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years, and it shouldn't have taken that long. And he was saying this saying, which became quite famous scripture, my people perish for lack of knowledge, is because they lacked the understanding of what God was leading them away from. And I feel like today people are lacking that same wisdom from above, and they're utilizing it in what they can only see with their physical nature, which limits us. And I'm hearing you're speaking about how it's going to improve the lives of most households, if not all. We're all going to receive a particular universal credit on the back of it. So there will be on the scales of rich and poor, everyone will kind of be seen almost like equal. But that's how God sees us. And I'm seeing the similar connotations to AI and God. So that's my question, going back to what you was pondering. Where do you see him in all of this, if you see him at all?
I grew up in a Christian family because obviously my parents are first generation African.
Okay.
My belief about the Christian system and what goes on is I'm not. Okay, so maybe the best thing is that the last Ghanaian president, not the current one now, the last one, said he was going to build a church, a £1 billion church in the
£1
eyes
billion
pounds church in the eyes of the Lord.
That's a mega church.
Exactly. Exactly. What I have found is that a lot of the stuff. Okay, I'm going to start again. My whole thing about understanding history in order to understand the future means I've looked back at so many things that have got no explanations for, that I question what God and what we've been told God is, and whether it is how we see it.
Okay.
In my mind.
As in whether he exists or whether he allowed the things to happen the way they did.
Both.
Both.
We have history now that's shown things like the Anunnakis. You talked about Egypt earlier. There are so many things coming out. They found places like Getepi Tepe, which is in Turkey. They found 5 different types of cities in there, which shows even where our history of what we call our history is not. And these people have way back before where we are. I think our history on all of this will come out as we go through these new technologies of our future, because I don't believe that
When you say our history, you're saying black history, or just history of the humankind?
history of the humankind.
Okay.
This is not just about black people. There are many weird examples. History, the Dogon tribe in Africa, if you've ever heard of them.
Yeah, please, you'll have to elaborate here.
So the Dogon tribe, as an example, is an African tribe that originally came from what they called Kemet, which is Egypt.
I've heard of
at
Kemet.
that time, right? So Egypt, Kemet is just the original name for Egypt. So
I think Kemet's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible,
Yeah,
right? So a lot of things start from there. The Dogon tribe got pushed out, ended up in Africa, in a different part of Africa from where they originally came from, in Egypt. And there's a story about French historians or people who were looking at our history, and they went to the Dogon tribe, and apparently the tribe talked about another, where they got their awakening from, came from a star called Sirius B, and that's where their ancestors came from, up in the sky. All across the globe, David, there are all of these religions that talked about sky beings, ancestors, all of these types of things. That's more prevalent in more of religion. In fact, in 95% of religion, than actually a God, when you look back on it historically. So why have all of these people got all of these types of things within their religion? And these Dogon tribe have said that we got our information from our ancestors, same things that the Aborigines believe, who were sky gods and came from Sirius B. Now, at that time, the people from the Western world, they were French, said there's no such thing as Sirius B. They'd never heard of it. There was a white dwarf star called Sirius A. They then went back and checked what the Dogon tribe and found Sirius B behind Sirius A that they'd never seen. So my question is, how did they know? And these things have come out time and time again. So as I see it, there are big gaps in our history. There are big things that don't add up in my mind to what people see necessarily as God, or that information that's being given up. And I want to keep it completely grounded to facts, that these things are out there. Getepi Tepe is there, right? And all that. And more keeps coming out about these stories that we believe were fables. But seems now like there was these things that were actually there.
Right.
And what's actually going to be revealed with things like quantum and AI is that whole understanding of our history. Even the Vatican recently has had to admit there may well be aliens. We have found 100 billion exoplanets out there that could all have humans. Right? And that's what, a fraction of the universe, if at all. We haven't even touched what happens with the rest of the universe. There is so much more out there that I think will be revealed. And I am not now in belief of what I've been taught, of what we see from the things that I've mentioned. One, that there's a lot of negative stuff going on with the church. It makes people just want to give their money to church people. I don't understand all of that. We should be getting together to do more if we're a church, to do better with our communities. We can't even galvanize our communities with our churches. We're not getting anywhere. So from all of that, people go there, and I used to be same with my parents. Go Sunday. Yeah, and the earlier
Did you have a bad experience?
Never had a bad experience at church. Just my knowledge of what I gained leads me to believe
Just wasn't adding up.
It's not adding up.
But listening to you, it sounds like it does in a way, because some of the things that you're mentioning with AI, kind of, for me, respectfully, contradicts again the word of God. when we talk about you know, discovering how the universe is expanding. This is in the Bible. This is in the book of Job. When Job was, you know, I don't know if you know that story
I
about a
don't
man
know
called
that
Job.
story, but I will say to you that all these stories on the collections of stuff in the Bible, the biggest Bible book that was never included was the Book of Enoch.
Right. Okay.
And that has a completely
Yeah, that's
different.
This is probably the book of Enoch might be. How can I put this? It's like quantum.
It was omitted, deliberately omitted from Bible stuff, is
Okay,
what I found.
that's what you found out.
Right,
Fair enough.
as an example. of
Have you
all
read
the-
it?
Yes, and the Book of Enoch talks more about sky beings and different entities that potentially.
And does it not make sense to you, Kofi, that angel beings can be sky beings? They can be aliens because they're not from this planet.
Yes, that's where I'm more
So
going
the
down.
so the terminology aliens and UFOs are something that, you know, hypothetically speaking, real, but the ideology of how they've been painted is what has led us to come to this
that I would agree with you 100%.
that battle of
yeah.
you know, do they
So
exist
when
or
I'm
not?
talking to you, I mean, there's all these stories about the Anunnaki, right?
Right.
Who are historically supposed to be linked. They were in Egypt, but some of these civilizations, David, have just gone missing. The Mayan culture completely gone missing. Where did they go?
Yes, yes, yes.
Right? Where have all these people? These are that the Mayan culture gave us time, gave us all these things. Yet they've just disappeared off the face of the earth.
You don't think God could wipe them out?
I think
Did that one stop? You don't think God could wipe them out, Kofi? Or that would it be logical for you because if God did exist and he's supposed to be all loving, merciful, why would he wipe out a race? Is that
but we found all these bodies all across the globe from this. What it looks like when you look at the whole thing about the earth is there's been many catastrophes, not just one, not just the Great Flood.
No.
It's happened time and time and time again, and it seems to be a reset, right?
Okay.
But who's triggering that reset, right? Is some of the things I'd question, but more importantly, we would have found some evidence of them somewhere. They've just disappeared, right? Right.
Okay.
So if I find all of, this was the most civilized culture then, and even them talking about pyramids and stuff.
so there's no remnants today
Very,
of the Mayans?
very little remnants apart from what's left, but you're not finding loads of bones and all these
Really?
things. Yeah, very little. They've just like disappeared.
Okay.
It's bizarre,
Right.
right? And this is, but if you look also at Latin culture, lots of things about sky beings, Aborigine sky beings, right? The Vimanas, what they had in books in India, were sky beings. So it's leading me to question that there's more about sky beings than what we see as that spiritual thing of God, some mythical figure that maybe is what we look
Okay.
to that whole thing. Because the way God has always been described to me,
Yeah.
if you're looking at my faith, is that it's this one omnipotent person that has bestowed greatness and everything on the earth. And, Jesus was his son that he gave to us. I'm not sure that whole narrative now
Okay.
for me fits.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's things out there that we don't know yet. I believe they're going to come through quantum and all these things.
Okay. Yeah.
And I believe then that's when we're going to see where we really came from, because a lot of revelations are going to be made over the next 10 or 15 years, in my opinion.
Okay. I mean, this is this is so this is so interesting, because there's so much within your knowledge, Kofi, that I'm willing to receive and be taught from you regarding AI. But when I look at when I try to understand its moral ethics, who's governing those ethics? You yourself are not really able to answer, yet you're more willing to accept that as your guidance, social guidance in a way, in comparison to maybe what the Bible says. Because something in there, even though both of them you're saying, I don't know all, but I'm going to find out. It's like you're choosing to say, I'd rather find out from that pot than that pot.
Okay, so let's look at it this way. If I put a horse outside now, David, and said, ride the horse and ride it to Manchester, that was what we were doing 100 years ago. We're not, because we now have a car.
Mm.
Same thing will happen with all these technologies. Our development and our growth is based on technologies, advancement. It's that simple, right? We try to all say we need to go back to it, yet we all use our mobile phones to pretty much connect with the rest of the world or anything else that we do, right? So one thing I can say with certainty is that technology will drive where we are going for the future. Would you not agree, David?
Yeah.
Right? Because we know that we could still be running everywhere if we wanted to, or walking everywhere if we wanted to. We do not, because we've now found shorter ways and better ways of convenience. Now, we know very little about lots of stuff, Dave, including what's out there in the rest of the universe and everything else. So our knowledge is now going to include that as we develop. And any other species out there that is even 100 years ahead of us, David, just 100, which is the lifetime potentially of a human being, right? Mm-hmm. If I took you back 100 years and I went, here's a mobile phone, what would you think?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
What would you think?
I'd probably think this was God.
Right. Let's go forward another 100 years. What Gen Alpha are going to be facing and all of those. We're getting technologies that are going to reveal craziness across.
Absolutely.
And that's where I'm coming from that perspective to say, okay, you may well have a point, but I also believe what's going to happen is not that I'm picking from one to another. We're going to find out. Whether we like it or not, we're going to find out, because this stuff is so massive that when it comes to us and we start being able to track back 10,000, 100,000, there will be answers.
And what would happen, Kofi, if you found answers that led back to the truth about God? What would that do for you?
No, you're saying what would happen if the answer was what you're saying it is. That's what you're saying. And if that is, and there's an omnipotent person and we can believe it, no problem. But right now, we are talking about believing in somebody that we have no record for. Technically.
Oh, there's vast records about
a Jesus.
About Jesus for sure. The man. Because Jesus was the man.
Jesus was the man. But who was he? Do we have his bones? Do we have anything like that? We believe in things.
Because remember, Kofi, that he was not from here. So his bones, his clothes, his burial ground, it's not here, which is what people want to find evidence of. The believer believes in his heart that Jesus existed. How does a believer come to this conclusion without evidential facts?
Is what I'm debating.
God says that from the beginning of time, he's shown his creation to all mankind through the doings of all things that were created in him, through him, and by him. Now, you've mentioned the invisible stuff that we can see that govern this room right now: molecules, atoms, oxygen, gravity. We know that they're there, but we cannot see them. Yet, for somebody who chooses, because I do think it's down to choice, that we don't want to believe there's a God exists. I think it's not down to substantial lack of substantial evidence. because we see the sun rise and set every day without fail. It doesn't let up. There's no mistake about it. Yet that order is governed by something. So we know that there needs to be an order, just like AI has to have an order of events. And God, for me, has given us everything that we could see, from the trees to the blue skies to the mountains to the ocean, that give us a in-depth understanding that there is a creator, and in this creation, there's something uniquely in it for me and you, which is really mind-blowing as well in itself, that we've been given a uniqueness within this big picture. And then the power that we have within that is the power to believe or not believe. That's power, you know.
Yes, but your first point was the most relevant point, and that point was that you've talked about atoms and all this stuff, is what you said. But we have facts for them. That's what I've just told you. Quantum,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Our molecules, and we're now manipulating. We have them.
Yeah.
There is absolute scientific proof. I made you read an article, and that article is now saying that because we're now doing quantum,
Yeah.
there is a good chance that there are multiverses that include me and you somewhere else.
So where did these atoms
So these
come
are-
from? Who created them, or were they?
Right now, we know that
Particles
the
of-
building blocks are atoms. We don't know if there's one generic person that built them, because you've just said it correctly. It's based on faith. But what's not on faith is that atoms exist, and we know they create everything. We are now manipulating those atoms to find more solutions. So on one hand, I have scientific proof, where you began by saying, well, these things, no, it doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means how we measured them didn't exist. What I'm saying to you right now is that, on the other hand, this whole thing with Jesus and God is based purely on faith. Right?
Okay.
You've just admitted that. Purely on faith. We have no records. We have none that we're told that this guy created everything. Yet I'm showing you that atoms and molecules are being manipulated by Google. So these things are in place to do that. Now, when we go back, and I talked to you earlier on about the Anunnakis and stuff, there's like lots of different narratives of how we became and what our being became. The first narrative, or one of those narratives, is that the Anunnaki who created us were as a slave race to do stuff for us, for them.
For them, okay.
For them. That is one story that's well documented out there. Now, the reason it's documented out there is because we know that the Anunnakis were real, right? They used these pyramids. All these pyramids are around. Still now, David, we do not know how pyramids were built. There was a culture or a bunch of people here who created, without no technology, these big things that even now we would struggle.
They cannot be
replicated. Those are facts, Dave. Right.
Fair enough.
So when we're looking at facts in terms of these things, that could not have been the human race that created it. It is impossible. We couldn't have created it. So who did?
Well, the believer of God.
So are we saying that God came down and just decided he's going to build pyramids? And a lot of this stuff just doesn't make sense. The pyramids they're built with so much precision.
Remember what the Bible says about fallen angels. So the Bible describes a time where super beings came down to the earth. So there's that narration there that will now lead to a super intelligence of some kind dwelling among us.
That I don't have a problem with when you say there's a super intelligence, maybe. But in terms of the way it's described, in the way that we see God and Jesus, that is not the same.
That might be down to, fair enough, Kofi. Right. And that might be down to, as you mentioned to me earlier, about how I was taught something.
Yes.
Could be the same way how you was taught something, and it might not have been in the best way. that you received it, and that's why for you it was void.
No, because as I said, for years I was in the church. This only started happening after I started doing research.
Yeah.
This is not a thing. I grew up completely. So me and you got the same thing. I know what Christianity is. I know what Muslim culture is. I know a lot of these things. But I grew up primarily in the Christian faith. Right.
Kofi, you see this
Yeah.
pattern here
Yes.
on the walls? Now look at your fingerprint and tell me if you could see anything resembling of that. You and I both know that nobody has the two of the same fingerprint. It's unique to every human being. That's one element of a fact. We look at carbon monoxide and the oxygen. What we breathe in from the trees comes into our lungs. What we breathe out goes back to the trees.
Yes, I know it's a symbiotic world.
Yeah.
So I understand that. Yeah.
So when we look at, I'm just giving some things food for thought here. When we look at the insides of the anatomy of a human body, we can see all different wonders and shapes and sizes, whether that's our intestines, our nervous system, which looks similarly to the galaxy. Again, with all different Milky Ways and stuff like that. And if you want to go as deep as blood cells and again, other internal body functions, you can liken them to certain fruits, such as broccoli, pomegranate seeds, carrots. The list goes on. Is this not enough to say this is wondrous and mysterious, and it can't be all coincidence that this has just formed those kind of similarities without being the creator?
So, firstly, there is a technology coming along called CRISPR, as I've mentioned to you, DNA.
Right.
We can manipulate our DNA, our own DNA, to create whatever we wanted now. It's
come.
coming. It's coming. Well, even with that, because there was I told you the story of the Chinese doctor who wanted to stop HIV and remove gene C55 from these twins in China's so that they wouldn't get it. And they've given them higher brain functions. We're only starting to understand what we can do, which will look like magic as we go forward. And one of these things is CRISPR. So basically, we are going to be able to, in future, give ourselves double density bones if we wanted to, and prepare ourselves to be on another planet, right? By manipulating our DNA sequence.
Does that make us great? Or
I'm just saying these things are happening. So if we look at an all creator, and then to your point about saying, you know, our organs represent all of that, does that mean that there's no other different types of people in the universe that maybe matches anywhere else? Because
good question.
how do we not know? We don't know that. I think it is impossible. It is scientifically, David, impossible for us to be the only. Yeah, it's just like I said. We found 100 billion every exoplanets. Every time we create a new telescope or a new view, we're finding more and more. 95% of the universe, David, is dark matter. We don't even know what that is. We have no idea. Right. So at the moment, if you're saying to me, there's one omnipotent or way that did that, I wholeheartedly disagree because of what is factually and scientifically possible. And I think that what we used to do was use that to explain stuff that we couldn't explain.
Okay.
I believe as we go forward and the manipulation of atoms at quantum level will reveal a whole different understanding. Atoms can exist, and they call it superposition, in more than one place at the same time.
God.
So are we saying atoms are God?
100%.
Right. Now, if we're saying that because they're the creators of everything, that maybe I'll agree with you. But what I'm saying to you is I'm not believing there's one omnipotent person with his son that we've described in that way.
No, because we're putting.
Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Right.
Let's not put God in a box, because that's what a lot of people do. And the minute we do that, that's when he becomes small. But God's not small. If we're going back,
we go to a church, David, in Africa now. There'll be a guy that comes and put his hand on your head and said, God has blessed you. Jesus has come and done. I'm just
sorry, I'm laughing.
No, but can you understand my point
I
that
do.
I'm making to you, right?
I do.
Is that at the end of the day, the stuff that me and you're talking
Yeah.
about makes sense.
Yeah.
But we've gone to churches and places where people are saying this one omnipotent person who we class as God and Jesus has come and saved you.
Yeah. Well, as you know, like most things, Kofi, and I can't imagine this not happening with AI, where at some point somebody is going to find a black market where what you've mentioned will become a necessity for civilization. Somebody is going to find something somewhere on the black market where they're going to be offering people, look, I'm going to still find work for you, right? I've got this organization, this, that, and the other. You can still earn bread and milk this way, but that way you don't have to go through the government system of this UBI. Just making it up.
Okay.
I'm saying that there's always some type of black market.
Yeah.
There was a black market for the COVID jab. There was a black market for drugs. There's a black market for everything. DVDs. So in reference to what you just mentioned, and very unfortunate for the church, there is a black market where some people are manipulating the word of God for monetary purposes. And unfortunately, those that don't know the word of God are the victims of these crimes, if you want to call it that. Let's not forget that the Bible does mention that Lucifer, who became the devil, was from heaven. So he's going to exist in church realms. He's going to speak to church people. And if his plan, which I'm saying if, being an imperative word, but if is what he's trying to do, if his plan is to deceive everybody from knowing the knowledge of God, then of course, the first place he's going to start is in that kingdom, so to speak, because a house that is divided cannot stand. So he would try to manipulate. That's from my take on the understanding of it.
Okay.
Before I know you want to say something here, please, and do not lose your thought there, Cole.
No.
But just to going back onto the subject of matter, the Bible tells us in Genesis from the beginning, in the beginning, which we know expresses time, was the Spirit of God. And it says that the Spirit of God hovered above the darkness of the depths. I think that's what it says. Now that dark matter that you was explaining, I believe, is the very embodiment of God's Spirit over all things. And then he said, let there be light. And then boom, that wasn't the sun. He just said, let there be light. And then boom. So there's a lot of things that I can understand you would question. A sensible person questions, okay? But where my faith leads me to believe that was the creation of the world and everything in it, is because life has already shown me that without order brings chaos. And there had to be something or someone that gave order to all of the things that me and you know, the constellation of the stars, the alignment of planets, like I said, the sunset and the sunrise, the moon. The list goes on. You know, me and you waking up this morning and breathing our first, well, not first breath, because we was breathing while we were sleeping, but you know what I mean. These things blow my mind, Kofi, and I really find it really challenging or mind-boggling how some people don't see it that way.
I just see what you said as science. I don't see it. I believe that a lot of the stuff that we talk about from a spiritual perspective is science that we just haven't answered yet.
Okay.
And that's where I'm going with a lot of. I believe that that all of these things to be using a metaphor, as I've said, of some omnipotent one or two people who created all of that. I'm not saying there isn't any of that. And when we're going into the world of quantum, they're saying that we live in a fractal universe.
Yeah.
That's coming out more and more, which is that things don't exist. We're making them exist as we're going along with, and it's not one for this discussion because it's just confused people more and more. But we have had stories of a person that has done these things that put us to life, but yet we still get more and more evil stuff that is going on across the globe. Even in our faiths and religions, there's a lot of evil stuff. Some of the stuff we mentioned, the Vatican has a big problem. Not one I'm going to bring up from there, but you know what I mean, right? They have a big problem. It seems like anywhere where there's denial or people can't be who they want to be, spawns out more of these problems. Right? So there are rules around these areas. I also find it quite interesting that much of the church or these faiths have a lot of money. Yet the biggest problem in the globe, David, is still hunger. Now, with hunger, all we have to do is everybody decides to eradicate hunger. Hunger will be eradicated because, as you know, David, there is more food that we destroy in the world
Then we give to those that need it.
needed. So our whole thing around solving a lot of these things have nothing to do with faith or Jesus or God. Just the 1% who won't allow this to happen and put rules in to divide and conquer us, right? Many things, the distribution of wealth, all of that is purely because 1% controls it all.
And is this same 1% not the ones who are more or
Lucifer's.
less? No, well, if to call it that, but are they not the ones that are generating this AI technology today?
Whether they are or not, you have to look at the mechanisms. So if I said to you, you're going to go to Manchester, the mechanism to get you to Manchester is a car or train. So you need the two of them to be able to get you to where you want to get to. These people are creating the mechanisms around what we do
Are
around
currently
capitalism.
using.
Capitalism, and that's why I talk about money being but many of the problems in the world don't require any of that. They can be solved in seconds. They're deliberately being brought up because what happens is that a small select amount of people want, and the whole thing of this is control. They want to be in charge of maybe everybody else. I have no desire to be in charge of anybody else. I have a desire for humanity to improve to where we are. And that's why at the beginning of this, we brought up there's the tech stuff and then there's the spiritual stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
Our rising consciousness should mean we all connect and say, no, actually, there are 8 billion in the world, and if 7.9 billion rose up against the 1%, they wouldn't have any power. Right?
But they've dumbed us down.
No, what they've done is they've given us things that we see as things of entertainment and stuff that we, instead of spiritually focusing on what we're capable of doing.
I agree.
Right? And I include religion in that too.
Yeah.
Because it turns our heads, oh, we must give here. No, all of these things, David, can be solved very, very easily. The reason they're not solved is because we choose not to.
And is that because of our moral code?
No,
Or just
it's because they make the we're seeing a power shift across the globe in terms of the BRICS and all of these people that are going on. Right. Now, if we look at the people that were control, we're talking about World Economic Forums, IMF, International Monetary funds.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
We're looking at the Fed Reserves, who also are the governing body of all of that in a sense. Those two areas are the power structure that controls the globe, right? Nothing more than that. Right. Sometimes what we have to do is not look so wide and say, okay, the IMF none of our African countries or Caribbean countries have ever benefited ever. They're still in poverty from these people that distribute wealth or give money, right? We can't pay back the loans, all of these types of things.
Yeah.
So we look at what's causing misery. Is what's causing misery, to your question, the lack of our spiritual understanding of the world and the divine order? Or is what's causing this a group of people who are cutting people off and not allowing them to develop and keeping them in a particular state?
100%. I mean, I agree with that latter.
Right. So, again, that's what we have to do. It's get rid of that problem and most of the world stuff. This has nothing to do with God.
I think it does.
Well, no, because those people know. So, what you're maybe, David, then if you're saying that, oh, their heart's not big enough, they don't realize that, oh, all these people are in trouble. The world is about growth and technology and power, and that's why.
1,000,000%. And that's what I'm saying. All knowledge is increasing, but it's not increasing righteousness. And what a man, when I say a man, hypothetically speaking, as an individual, as a collective, we are becoming more and more self-righteous in today's world than ever before, because we're no longer looking to a deity or anything for guidance or direction. We're now taking it upon ourselves to say, I know this and I know that, and this is what I'm going to choose to do with what I know. And based on this moral obligation, I'm going to ask a group of people to follow me. And if they don't, then they're against me. And I feel like that's how this generation, well, for the longest time, if we go back to maybe even Hitler, what he wanted to engineer was something along those lines. So whilst I can agree with you, Kofi, on much you've spoken about, I'm sure you'll concur the same with me. There's also a lot that I would disagree with, only in relation to biblical prophecy and being where we are today in the world and still being unsure about tomorrow. There's an old saying, I'm going to let you continue before we close very shortly. We don't fear, I think Paul said this, we don't fear about tomorrow because we know. Whereas non-believers are the ones who are scratching their heads, concerned more than a believer. Because in all truth, whilst you feel that you got the knowledge, it's actually more fear of what you know than what you don't know. If that makes any kind of sense. Meaning, let me put it in another way. Bible says that man's wisdom is God's foolishness.
But at the end of the day, the bottom line is every human just has to be honest and just have to decide what they're going to do in order to enhance. What we are here for, in my opinion, is that in order to enhance the human being, we must all do our part to help humanity grow. We've lost that, and people are doing things because of the fact that the control system means that they want things that shouldn't mean anything to them, that they should look at from a much bigger level. But if you've got somebody squeezing you, and to your point you began with, all poor, everybody who's poor in one area, and that's what tends to happen. Everybody who's poor, then we just fight off each other because there's less resources, and yet there's more than enough resources in this world. So a lot of this is just about training and how you bring people up. A lot of this is about how much we teach the right things at the beginning. This is not because there is, in my opinion, an evil Lucifer. It's all about who's taught and how they're taught. Right? I feel that my mission on this and to end this stuff is to give an understanding of where we're next going in the world. I've had my time through the Sinclair ZX spectrum. We had 4 opportunities in my life to get out of poverty. Those 4 opportunities came in the internet area. They came in the sneaker section in terms of retail. I've got every single time we've adopted the computer sector was another one that came through. So I've had 4 opportunities. The phone sector would be another one. They grew. So in my lifetime, I've had 4 opportunities to get out of poverty. Had I known what was going on with these, and there are now 10 coming for these generations coming along because of all of these things that are coming that will allow us to get out of poverty. In order to challenge those establishments, I think that what we've got to do is get people who can do that, and we've got to show them. But what I see in our community is going to church and praying that the world will be given to them in rights. It will not. They have to wake up and understand that this is a question of, you understand what's going on with all of these areas, all of these technologies. But why I brought up that point about people is they all go there every day and they're praying, God bless me. It's not God blessing me. You've got to do it yourselves in terms of understanding what is going on and being able to do this great. And that's why I cannot accept what goes on.
Yeah, no, absolutely, I agree with that part. You know, faith without works is dead. So if you're going to believe in something, you need to obviously make a thing.
Yeah.
Go, before we actually draw this to a close, because like I said, you know, it's not all negative doom and gloom regarding AI. There are some fantastic stuff that it can do. And you obviously teach it to a group of various people, young people from different walks of life, different backgrounds. What would you advise a young person leaving school today who has prospects, future prospects, of a better life? What as somebody who teaches and studies this industry, what would you advise a young person?
Yeah, they've got to understand it thoroughly. They need to be able to use this, and everybody needs to have a side hustle. They all need a secondary income and all of these things in terms of what's going to happen with the world and where we're going. Learning to use AI or understanding it, because it will impact every single industry, is the most important factor. From doing things like their CVs to cover letters at a basic level all the way up to the next load of levels.
Okay.
But also there's much more happening out there, and they need to be curious. Right now, what I keep hearing is that lots of young men and women are just lost. They are lost because the world is changing and nobody's telling them why the world is changing. That's why they're lost. So when they come here and they can see what's going on and what this may lead to, that then gives them a thing to say, okay, this is how I play my part. Now, right now, no explanation's been given. All you're seeing is AI, and we've gone up to 5.2% in unemployment, and AI is coming to get you a job. Well, that's the truth. But what you can do about it is start preparing to say, well, let me get a second hustle now. What can I do with this stuff? How can I learn it to use it to do better? Even investment, David. You can invest better because you understand all of these.
Well, I hope you're going to teach me a little bit about that at some point.
Yeah.
Because you also run, obviously, a graduate.
Yeah.
Is it right to say graduate scheme within your courses? Where can people find your course if they're interested?
So yeah, we're Urban MBA, and what we're focused on is enterprise.
Okay.
In particular, because you need to, but also in teaching people what's about to happen, because there's big things that they're just not aware of, right? And hopefully we have a better chance then maybe of doing better for the world as these technologies come out and they reveal things like free energy. Now, imagine, David, the world on free energy, where nobody's being charged for these types of things. It's all coming with quantum. Or the question will have to be at least answered. Because we learn all of these things, and energy is a big thing. Half the world isn't lit up.
I mean, you're mentioning some solid points again now.
Some crazy stuff that's coming, but it's coming, right? And we've got to be in the mix up to shape this up and ask the question. But how can you ask the question if you don't know it's coming?
Yeah.
Right? How can 8 billion, 7.9 ask the question, oi, does quantum bring free energy? And who's dictating that? Now, if all 7.9 billion asked the question to Google and everybody else and said, we're not doing anything anymore until we have that, could they operate? The answer is no.
Yeah.
But we don't know enough, so we don't ask that question because we're all just trying to put a little bit of food on our table, and so we cannot understand the problems that are then going to occur from lack of knowledge of these areas.
This is some deep stuff. And to be honest with you, I can talk to you about this all day, Kofi, because
We maybe need to do a follow-up.
I think we will do, because we got a lot across. I feel like I got a lot of my points across to you. You answered, and you got some points across to me. Hopefully, I answered as well, and hopefully the listener got a little bit more understanding about where we are today, what AI actually means, whether or not it will actually take over our jobs or not. What does that mean for us and our future as humans, as families, and as contributors to our society? I can't thank you enough, Kofi, for sharing your knowledge and expertise with us. And without doubt, I think we need to have a second conversation or follow up, at least, to this. Do you want to add anything before we?
No, I've just
Sign
really
off.
enjoyed coming, and maybe if we do a follow-up, let's wait for AGI to hit, because then when AGI does hit, a lot of these things that we've talked about will then be, well, hang on, we talked about them.
And you'll be able to say, "See, David."
The only reason I say that, so many people of our students always come back and say, "My God, how did you know this was?" It's all out there already.
When do you reckon that will take place?
I think, like I said, AGI will probably, that's the next milestone probably for me. AGI
Next 2 years before 2030.
No, I think it'll be done by 2027.
Oh,
By the end of this year or the beginning of next year, I think we will be looking at AGI already. And that's why the rapid ascension of thinking about UBIs will come much closer. And I believe that's why it's been announced, because these things are moving faster than we've ever been. And so that's why I said that's the prerequisite for understanding what maybe we look like society-wise for the future. So that will be the next big things. But otherwise, the whole thing of spiritual and technology is also a very interesting one, because people are wrestling with that.
no, absolutely. I think that concludes the whole of this episode. That AI doesn't necessarily threaten God. If anything, it tests humanity. That's my take of this. Kofi, thank you so much,
Thank you.
and let's catch up again.
Defo. Cheers.
Cheers. If today's episode was interesting to you in any way, then the biggest and freest way to support us is to hit follow, like, and subscribe. It would really mean a lot if you could share it with anybody that you know, just so that we can get our voice out there. Who knows if it will help someone who needs to hear it. Remember, everything is upside down.